The people who actually run things have never needed you to know they exist. That's the first thing to understand, and it rearranges everything that comes after it. You were raised to picture power as a loud thing, the man at the podium, the name on the building, the face on the screen. But the face on the screen is an employee. Real power has spent centuries learning to do the opposite of be seen. It moves behind the visible, through the visible, and lets the visible take the credit and the blame. For most of history, the methods for doing this were not written in any book you could buy. They were passed inside closed orders, lodges, fraternities, the rooms behind the rooms, under oath, in stages, to people who had proven they could hold a secret without it leaking out of their face. The societies were never really about robes and handshakes. That was the theater. Underneath the theater was a working manual for how influence actually operates when no one is watching. And here is the part they'd prefer you didn't sit with too long. The laws still work. They work because they're not magic and they're not conspiracy. They're human nature, mapped precisely by people who had every reason to map it and no reason to share the map. Symbol, oath, hierarchy, silence. The patient, generational kind of patience most people can't even imagine. This video is 9 of those laws, not to make you paranoid about who's using them on you, though they are. To put the manual in your hands for once, so you can stop being the one it's run on. The first law is the one all the others hide behind. Pay attention. The oldest rule of every order that ever lasted. The hand that moves the piece is never the piece. You've had it backwards your whole life because the world rewards the opposite in public. It hands trophies to the visible, the loudest, the most credited, the one whose name is on it. So you learned to chase being seen. But watch where the durable power actually sits, and you'll notice it almost never sits in the seen position. The seen position is the lightning rod. It absorbs the attention, the envy, the blame, the fall. The real operator stands one step back in the blind spot, holding the thing that actually decides. The societies formalized this. The visible officer ran the meeting. The man who chose the officer never spoke. Influence flowed through proxies, through suggestion, through the careful placement of other people in the front, so that when the world looked for someone to credit or to burn, it found a face that wasn't the source. Here's the mechanic, and you can run it this week. Stop fighting to be the obvious author of every win. When you want a thing to happen in a room, you do not always announce that you want it. You plant it in the person whose voice the room already trusts, and you let it arrive as their idea. You build influence with the people around the decision instead of grabbing for the decision itself. You let someone else hold the title while you hold the leverage. The credit is the bait. The leverage is the meal. Most people eat the bait and wonder why they're still hungry. There's a discipline in this that the ego hates, and you should be honest about it. It means doing real things and letting other people look like the reason. It means winning quietly while someone louder takes the bow. The insecure can't do it. They need the visible credit more than they need the actual outcome, and so they trade the outcome away for applause every time. The strongest position in any room is the one no one is looking at because it's the only one nobody's aiming at. Move behind the visible. That's Law 1. Every order was built the same way. Not as a crowd, but as circles inside circles. An outer ring that knew the symbols, a middle ring that knew the meanings, and a small inner ring that knew what it all was actually for. This wasn't snobbery. It was control of the one resource that matters more than money, information, by controlling who holds which piece of it. The outer ring believed it was on the inside. It wasn't. It was managed, given exactly enough to stay loyal and never enough to threaten. And every ring was told, truthfully, that there were no further rings. right up until they were initiated into the next one. You live inside other people's rings right now, whether you've noticed or not. The question this law forces is, are you building your own? The mechanic is to stop treating all information as one flat thing you spill to everyone equally. Most people broadcast at a single volume. They tell the same things to a stranger, a friend, and a rival, and then they're shocked when it's used against them. The operator runs rings. There's what the world gets, there's what your circle gets, and there's the inner ring, the one or two people, or sometimes no one, who get the whole picture. You decide deliberately who is in which ring, and you grant access the way the orders did, slowly in stages, only as trust is proven by action, never by charm. This is how you stop being managed by other people's rings, too. The moment you understand that everyone is operating you on a need-to-know basis, your boss, the platform, the institution, you stop taking the outer ring story as the whole story. You ask the question the outer ring never asks. What would I have to know to be in the next circle? And who's keeping me out of it? The people who run things don't have more information than everyone else combined. They have it sorted, ringed, and rationed. And the rationing is the power. Control the rings. That's law too. No order ever trusted a man because he said he was loyal. They trusted him because they had watched him pay. This is the law of initiation, and it runs far deeper than candles and oaths. The orders understood a brutal piece of human wiring. People are not loyal to what's easy. They're loyal to what costs them something. So they built ordeals, trials, secrecy, sacrifice, a price of entry, not to keep people out, though it did, but to bind the ones who made it through. The man who suffered to get in would defend his place far harder than the man who was simply handed it. The cost wasn't the obstacle to belonging. The cost was the glue. You feel this everywhere once you see it. People value the thing they struggled for and dismiss the thing that came free. The friendship forged in a hard year, the skill that nearly broke you, the group that made you earn your place. The harder the entry, the deeper the bond, and the orders engineered that on purpose. The mechanic cuts two ways, and you need both. First, inward. Stop looking for the easy door. The thing you have to bleed a little to enter is the thing that will hold you, change you, mean something. Easy access creates weak attachment to a goal, a group, a version of yourself. If you want to become someone, choose the ordeal, because the ordeal is what makes the becoming stick. And outward, with eyes open, understand that when something asks a real price of you up front, it is binding you, and you should know whether you want to be bound. Sometimes you do. That's commitment, and it's how anything serious gets built. Sometimes you don't, and the investment is a hook. The orders use the ordeal to forge devotion. So does every group that wants to own you. The difference between initiation and manipulation is whether you chose the door with your eyes open. People protect what they paid for. Make them pay to enter and they'll defend it as their own. Bind through the ordeal. That's law 3. The orders never relied on argument. Argument talks to the part of a person that can say no. They used symbols, because a symbol slips past the guard and speaks straight to the part that doesn't argue. It just feels and obeys. This is the most quietly powerful law in the whole manual, and it's hiding in plain sight. A symbol is a compression, a single image, object, or gesture that carries a whole weight of meaning without a single word. The eye, the ring, the seal, the color worn only by those who'd earned it. None of these persuade you. They bypass persuasion. They go underneath the conscious mind where decisions are actually made, and they anchor a feeling there before the thinking part ever gets a vote. You are soaked in this every day, run by symbols you never agreed to, the logo that makes you trust before you've checked, the uniform that makes you comply before you've thought, the setting, the marble lobby, the corner office, the head of the table. doing the convincing while the words are just noise on top. The orders simply did on purpose and with discipline what brands and institutions now do to you all day. The mechanic is to become literate in symbols, both reading them and wielding them. Reading. Start noticing what's persuading you underneath the argument. When you feel trust or fear or deference rise before you've reasoned your way there, stop and find the symbol that triggered it. Half of influence dissolves the moment you can name the thing that was working on you. And wielding. Understand that you are always sending symbols, whether you manage them or not. How you dress, how you hold a silence, what you put behind you, the small, consistent images you attach your name to. Most people send theirs by accident and wonder why they're read wrong. The operator chooses them. Words convince the mind and the mind resists. Symbols move the thing under the mind and it doesn't. Speak in symbols. That's Law 4. The orders never advertised. They concealed. And the concealment is precisely what made the world desperate to get in. This is the law the visible world has completely forgotten, which is exactly why it still works so well for the few who remember it. Value is not created only by what a thing is, it's created by how hard it is to reach. The hidden becomes coveted, the withheld becomes precious. The orders understood that a secret, simply by being a secret, generates a gravity that no amount of open promotion ever could. People will strain toward the closed door in a way they never strain toward the open one. You live in an age built on the opposite instinct. Everyone broadcasts everything, constantly, for free, and then cannot understand why none of it is valued. They've made themselves entirely available and entirely cheap in the same motion, because total availability is cheapness. The mind does not prize what it can have at any moment for nothing. The mechanic is to reintroduce scarcity, deliberately, into a world drowning in access. Stop making all of yourself available all of the time. The person who is everywhere, always reachable, always explaining, always on. That person trains the world to take them for granted, because abundance teaches the mind to stop valuing. The one who is selective about access, who doesn't show every card, who lets some things stay behind the door. That person generates pull without ever asking for it. You don't chase. You become slightly harder to reach, and you let the gap do the work that begging never could. And the deepest cut of it, this is true of your attention to yourself, too. The energy you spend explaining yourself to everyone is energy leaking out through an open door. Withhold some. Keep some of your fire behind the wall where it can build heat, instead of bleeding off into a crowd that was never going to value it anyway. What is freely available is freely ignored. What is held back is hunted. Withhold to create value. That's Law 5. The orders measured time differently than you do, and that single difference is most of their advantage. You were trained by everything around you to think in days. The notification, the quick win, the result you want this week. The whole modern machine is built to keep you reacting inside a tiny window of time, because a person trapped in the short term is easy to move and easy to beat. The orders thought in decades, in lifetimes, in projects that one man would begin knowing he would die before another man finished it. And against people thinking in days, a person thinking in decades is barely playing the same game. He's playing a longer one, where almost no one else has even shown up. This is the law of the long game, and it's the one that quietly decides who wins everything that matters. Because the short-term player is governed entirely by his impatience. He abandons the thing right before it would have worked. He grabs the small reward and forfeits the large one. He can't sit in the discomfort long enough for compounding to do its work. The long player simply outlasts. He plants things he won't harvest soon. He builds slowly, deliberately, in a direction, while everyone around him sprints in circles and calls it progress. The mechanic is to lengthen your time horizon on purpose because it's the cheapest edge available and almost no one takes it. Ask of any choice. Where does this put me not next week but in 5 years? Start things whose payoff is far enough out that the impatient won't compete with you for them. That emptiness, where the short-term crowd refuses to go, is the least crowded ground on Earth. And let compounding be your weapon. The small, consistent, boring action, repeated past the point where others quit, is how the patient quietly lap the gifted. The world belongs to the ones who can wait. Everyone else is too busy reacting to ever build. Think in generations. That's law 6. The crudest influence pushes. The highest influence makes the other person feel they pulled. The orders never wanted obedience that knew it was obedience. That kind is brittle. It resents. It rebels the moment the pressure lifts. They wanted the far deeper thing. A person who does exactly what you intended while believing completely that they chose it freely. Because a person defends their own idea to the death, they'll abandon yours the second it's convenient, but they will fight for what they believe was theirs. This is the law of mirrored desire, and once you see it, you'll see it running underneath every skilled persuader you've ever met. They don't argue you into things. They ask the question that leads you to the conclusion, and then they step back and let you arrive, so that you walk away feeling clever, convinced, and entirely your own, never noticing the path was laid before you took a step. The mechanic is to stop pushing your conclusions onto people because the push is what creates the resistance. The moment you say you should, some part of the other person braces against being moved, even when you're right, especially when you're right. So you go underneath it. Instead of telling them the answer, you ask the question that contains it. Instead of arguing your case, you get curious about theirs and guide it gently toward the door you want them to walk through on their own legs. You plant the seed and let them believe they grew it. And there's a defensive edge here that matters as much as the offensive one. Once you know this is the highest form of influence, you start catching it being done to you. The idea that arrived a little too conveniently. The conclusion you reached that someone else needed you to reach. The question that was steering you. You can't be quietly led once you can feel the hand on the rudder. People will burn down a plan you imposed and defend to the grave a plan they think they made. Give them the second one. Make them believe it was their idea. That's Law 7. At the center of every order was the oath, not as ceremony, as architecture. The whole structure stood on one thing, that a man's spoken word was iron, and everyone knew it. Understand why they built everything on this. A group of people can only coordinate, trust, and act as one if the words passing between them are reliable, if a promise is a load-bearing thing and not just air. So the orders made the word sacred. To say it was to do it. To break it was to cease to exist inside that world. And from that single discipline came everything else. Trust without surveillance, coordination without constant checking, the ability to move as one body because each word could be built upon like stone. Now look at the world you actually live in, where words have become the cheapest thing there is. Everyone says they'll do the thing. Almost no one does. I'll get to it. Let's definitely make that happen. I'll start Monday. A flood of words backed by nothing, until words themselves have stopped meaning anything at all. And the rare person whose word is iron stands out like a lit window in a dark street. The mechanic is brutally simple and almost no one will do it, which is exactly why it's an edge. Make your word mean something. First to yourself. Stop saying things you won't do, even small things, even to yourself, because every broken word quietly teaches your own mind that your words are noise. Say less and mean all of it. When you commit so completely that people learn they can build on your word without checking. And that reliability in a world of flakes becomes a form of power that no amount of charm can buy. You become the fixed point, the one others organize around because you're the only thing that doesn't move, and extract the same standard outward. Watch what people do against what they said, and weight them accordingly. The world tells you who it is in the gap between its words and its actions. Most people fill that gap with excuses. Become someone who has no gap. In a world where words are wind, the man whose word is stone rules everyone standing on sand. Let your word be law. That's Law 8. There is a final secret, and it is the one the Orders guarded most carefully, because it's the one that, fully understood, makes the Orders themselves unnecessary. Every initiation, every degree, every rite of every society was built on a single hidden assumption that someone else holds the keys, and you must be granted entry by them. That power is bestowed, handed down through a hierarchy, given to you by those above, on their terms, in their time. And for most people inside most structures, that's how it works their entire lives. They wait to be chosen. They wait for permission, for the promotion, for the someone above to finally open the door and let them in. The deepest law dissolves all of it. Because the real initiation, the only one that ever actually changed anyone, was never something done to you by a man in a robe. It was the internal threshold you crossed yourself. The Orders staged it externally because they knew most people will not cross it without a ceremony to push them. But the ceremony was always just a mirror. The power it seemed to grant was already yours. The rite only gave you permission to pick it up. The mechanic is the simplest and the hardest thing in this entire video. Stop waiting to be chosen. There is no one coming to tap you on the shoulder and grant you the life, the authority, the permission you're waiting for. The structures are not going to initiate you into your own power because your dependence is useful to them. So you do it yourself. You decide you're allowed. You take the seat before anyone offers it. You do the work of the level above before you're given the title. You grant yourself the permission you keep waiting for someone else to hand down. And you discover the thing the Orders spent centuries keeping quiet. Almost no one was ever going to stop you. They were just counting on you to never try. This is why it's the last law. Every other law in this video is a tool. This one is the hand that picks the tools up. Move behind the visible. Ring your information. Speak in symbols. Keep your word. All of it stays theory until you cross the one threshold no one can cross for you, and stop asking the world for a permission it was never going to give. The keys were never theirs to hold. They were yours, and the only secret was that you were allowed to take them. Initiate yourself. That's Law 9. The lodges still stand, mostly empty. The robes are in museums. The great orders that once held these laws under oath have faded into rumor and bad documentaries. And somewhere along the way, people decided that meant the power was gone. It isn't gone. It was never in the robes. The laws outlived the orders because the laws were only ever a precise map of how people work. And people haven't changed. The map still runs, in boardrooms and group chats and every room where one person quietly understands what everyone else is only feeling. Most people will hear 9 laws and feel a flicker of unease, and then go back to being the one these are run on. That's the comfortable choice, and it's why the few stay few. A few will notice these aren't 9 separate tricks. They're one understanding said 9 ways. That power has always belonged to the ones willing to see what everyone else looks away from, and to act on it while the rest are still waiting for permission. Which one of those people are you? Most will forget by morning. A few will start tonight. The orders are gone. The code isn't. This is the Serpent Code. I'll see you in the next episode. Which of these 9 is being run on you right now? Drop the number below.